Cool. Yo, what's good? This is John from Crystal Lake, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 180 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with John Robert C., new vocalist for the band Crystal Lake. How you doing today, John?
What's going on, man? I'm doing pretty good. I'm just hanging out in my kitchen, which is in the middle of being remodeled, so excuse me for how it looks.
Hey, it's all good, man. My room's kind of a mess, but hey, that makes both of us.
It's all my good.
Yeah. So, kind of like the format is, I want to do like a rundown of your discography as well as talk about like your musical beginnings. So, take me back to young John. So, kind of growing up, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to be a vocalist?
Oh, that's awesome. So the first vocalist that got me into like screaming metal is going to be Glenn Benton from Deicide and Corey Taylor from Slipknot. Uh Up until those two guys, like I still loved heavy music, you know what I mean? But up until those two singers, I never really understood screaming properly. And then when I heard those dudes doing it, it just kind of clicked in my head, and then everything kind of went in motion from there and got a little different, just it expanded. But that's kind of where it all started. And then from there, just expanded into heavier music, and started listening to Killswitch Engage, and then it got a little bit heavier, and then I found the Acacia Strain, and I found My Bitter End, and this is in like 2004, 2005, so that was like the really heavy era of both of those bands, and I was just like super about it. I was so obsessed with My Bitter End as a kid, like it was insane.
Yeah, so tell me about My Bitter End because I don't think really nobody's ever talks about that.
So they were a pretty popular band back in around 2005, maybe 2007 even, and after that actually. But I wound up becoming really close friends with the band. I wound up joining a side project of two of the members, Todd and Mike Rainey. And then Todd wound up not being a part of the side project, and then Mike just stayed the drummer, and we wound up playing with people who literally eventually wound up being in bands like I think the band is Capstan, and then I think that's how you say it, right? And then Rivers of Nile is another one, and then people went on, Three Eyes of the Dead, and I went on to My Bitter End and whatnot. So it put me in that whole family of all of those guys. And then when Tyler decided he didn't want to sing for My Bitter End anymore, I was at the show. You know what I mean? He came off stage and, said very Tyler things for anybody that knows Tyler. He pretty much said he didn't want to do it anymore. And I kind of blew it off, not thinking he was real, like thinking he was kind of joking. And then I think maybe like a couple of days went by and I got a message from Mike and he asked me to join the band. And uh, it was super awesome. But that band was a really huge driving force in my musical life and in my friends, because we loved going to local shows, but My Bitter End was a big deal to us. uh and I was short-lived time, I was only in the band for like 2 years, maybe three, but I was attached to them by the hip for a good 5 years before I actually joined the band. So they were just like, they were like my heroes. I was like, oh my God, My Bitter End. Like, I was a little kid and it was so cool to hang out with them. And then when I wanted to be in their friends, and then when they randomly needed a singer, it was just, I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course eventually I think you the next up is The Last 10 Seconds of Life. So how did you join? Because I believe you joined in 2017.
Kind of, yeah. So it's actually that's a weird story also. So My Bitter End had just put out the song "Raised in Glass" and "The Fear" with me, and then we were supposed to go on tour with The Last 10 Seconds of Life, and Arsonist Gets All the Girls was headlining, and us and Last 10 were gonna flip flop, and amidst us going out on tour with them, we broke up, like, because there was internal conflict, and we were just like, the band is over. And then I was so hell-bent on going on that tour that I messaged every one of the bands, was like, do you guys need a merch guy, anything, I'll do it. And I got a message back from Anthony Madera from Last 10, who I knew from the local scene because he was in a band previously called Towers, and we all knew each other, excuse me. And he was like, yo, this super random thing, he was like, but our singer's not going to do the tour, like, do you want to come with us? And I remember being like, yeah, not because I knew who Last 10 was. I had actually never listened to the band, but I was so fucking hell bent on going on a like on that tour because I just, I had just started touring and you got like the hunger to go. Uh, so I had never even heard Last 10, and I told Anthony, like, yeah, I would love to sing for that band. Let's go. And he sent me the music and I listened to it and I actually really loved it. I was very surprised at how I had slept on listening to this band. And I was like, wow, this is really sick. Like, I can't believe I'm not listening to this. This is not what everybody says it is at all, because it gets described as like the beat down deathcore, like, bleh. But then you listen to it and you're like, this is like way better than that. And I fell in love with it. And that was actually in 2014, before Soulless Hymns had come out. And I did a whole 2 month run with Last 10 and Austin's Gets All the Girls, Not My Bitter End. Uh, and then after that tour, we decided I wasn't going to join the band and they were going to bring Storm back. And I wound up filling in for Suffocate and doing session vocals for Painted in Exile. And then in 2016, I think it was, I no, and then in 2015, I do another fill-in tour for Last 10 because they kick out Storm and they want to keep it on the hush. And they're like, we don't want anyone to know that we're not bringing him back, but we need you to fill in. We don't know if you'll be the singer, but. And then I did that Carnifex tour with them. And then a whole year went by
Oh
before they
wow.
told everyone I was the singer, but I was already the singer at that point. So, it was this whole crazy shit. And then I
Yeah.
did that for 6 years.
Yeah, and so so it was that Carnifex tour was like 2015 because I think might have been I think I was at that show.
Yeah, it was Carnifex, Within the Ruins,
Oh yeah,
Us, and
yeah. I think I was the first time I
Born
ever saw.
Ashore.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was the first time I've seen all those bands.
Oh, word. Yeah, yeah. That was when Tom still sang for Lorna. That was when Black Tongue was still touring, because Black Tongue was still supposed to be on that tour, and that was when they were first having issues, so they didn't play the tour, unfortunately. But that was a great tour.
All
Froze
right.
my dick off, dude. Great time
Yeah.
though.
Hell yeah. And so I believe like the first record you did with the band was The Violent Sound. So
Yes.
tell me about like that were you like listening to like the other previous albums like Know Your Exits, In Vivo Ex Vivo and Soulless Hymns and be like I need to sound like that, or did you want to like bring like kind of like your own like style to the band?
That's a great question. I wanted to bring my own style to the band because coming from My Bitter End, I had a little bit of an idea of who I was already as a singer. You know what I mean? So I didn't join Last 10 with the idea of like, I need to be this guy. I joined Last 10 with the idea of like, I want to do everything that I do and then try to do what he does, but I want them to sound better and like this. So I never even attempted to sing like him. But on top of that, the driving force with me not trying to sing like him, a big part of that was when I joined Last 10, Wyatt made a big point to talk about how he wanted there to be more of this, rock and roll melodic sound to it. It didn't necessarily say singing. The singing thing kind of happened randomly in the studio. We did the Little Black Line, and everyone was like, this is sick. Let's do this in all the songs. and then and then when we were done, we were like, damn, we probably shouldn't have done that. Oh well. So, like, but it was so much fun to do that we kind of like got carried away with ourselves. Um, and that was in 2017, I think that album came out. But that was my first album with them, and we had such a fun time. I listened to a lot of actually, I listened to tons of Bring Me the Horizon. That's when I first got into them. And I listened to a lot of Darkest Hour to get ready for that
Yeah,
album.
very
That was
underrated band.
for sure. Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Love Darkest Hour. Great
Yeah,
band.
yeah, they're pretty much one of the best bands going, and it's crazy they've been around
I love
since
Darkest.
'95, which is nuts.
Wow. Yeah, I love Darkest.
Yeah, yeah, and so when the I can't even talk when the Violent
No,
Sound
here's
was
the man.
when the Violent Sound was first released, like how was like the fan reception like where they were like yeah welcoming of the new singer, because anytime when bands like change singers is always a thing of like will it kill the band or won't it be? Because I remember, for example, like with Iron Maiden, like when they transitioned from Paul Diano to Bruce Dickinson, a lot of fans didn't know if it worked, but of course when they put out Number of the Beast, it was hit in pretty much the metal genre period. So I'm guessing it was like the same thing with you joining the last 10.
No, it was the complete opposite, actually. uh, I want to say that people liked it, but I honestly don't think anybody liked it at all. A lot of people got really mad that it wasn't super, super fucking heavy and it was this like really melodic thing. And like, I got you, you know what I mean? You listen to Last 10 for something different, but like, that's a great album and that's a phenomenal piece of work. It may not be the heavy band that you were used to, but I don't think people were super hype on it at all. I think people are more hype on it now than people were then. Because when it came out, it had so much capability to be so much more than it was, and there was no game plan with that album. It unfortunately fell flat on its face due to just our lack of planning, other people's lack of planning, and then just flat out not having the proper reception into the fan base that we had at the time. um it wasn't like we didn't try to be heavy. It was just that we didn't, and why it didn't make it a point to replace Storm identically. You know what I mean? He just wanted another talented singer. And unfortunately, we found this out the hard way. The people that listen to that band don't listen to the band because they're talented. They listen to the band because they sound like this. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So that was like we didn't sound like this anymore. We sounded like this. We were still really good, but we didn't do this anymore. So people were like, meh, and they were super pissed about it. But now I think actually with Tyler, I think they kind of have this again, if I'm not gonna lie. I think they sound a lot like they used to. So hopefully like they do better. Like,
Yeah. And then of course the next album, Machina Non Grata, I think is a pretty good album. Did you feel like more comfortable as a role in last 10 going from the Violent Sound to Machina Non Grata?
Yeah, and the whole time that we were recording that album, I think I said over and over to our bassist Mike, who was like one of my best friends, fucking. I was like, bro, I was like, we should have put this out first. He was like, I know. I was like, dude, if we would have went from Soulless to this, we probably would have had a better shot, and then Violent Sound would have done way better.
Yeah.
But we definitely worked pretty hard on that one and definitely got a little bit more of a hand in the writing for sure on Machina because uh, when we showed up to Violent Sound, that was done already. I really just got to put my spin on how it was going to be sung, not the way it was going to be sung. And Machina, I had songs that I wrote entirely on my own, like Sweet Chin and Savo. So there was just uh, a completely different vibe to it. So I definitely got to be more of myself on that
Yeah.
album.
Yeah, and I thought that was a pretty good album too. One of my favorites from 2019.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then of
One of
course
mine too.
your last album with the band, which was last year's self-titled album. I'm always curious because usually a self-titled album is like the band's first album, but it's like later in their career. I always feel like that's like a change or a new start for the band. What was the reason for the album being self-titled?
I am actually. I don't think we had really like a big motive behind it. I think it was more the fact of it would just felt like a milestone for the band. I forget exactly why it was our milestone or something of that nature, but it was a big deal for us. And I think we were gonna do a black album or a white album, if I'm being, excuse me, totally honest. So we wound up not doing that at all. And we did the self-title, which I'm really proud of that work. I really, really, really like that album for what we were as a band and all that nature. It was very, very fun to do.
Yeah,
Great
and I
time.
and I remember the last time I saw you with the band, you were on that tour with Caldy Cap, and then of course, like the internet broke when like you and the two other guys left the band. How hard was it to leave last 10?
Ooh, dude, that is no one's ever asked me that question, and that's actually a beautiful question. It is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my entire life. Like, think about a girlfriend that you want to break up with, but you can't tell her, like you don't want to tell her. It was way harder than that. Being in, I don't want to like burst bubbles for anybody or stir the pot, but it wasn't healthy for me. And I think it was like that for the other people in the band as well, even the people that didn't leave or whatever. And you know, that whole situation just kind of, it was super rough. I actually wound up meeting somebody that gave me the emotional support that I needed to actually feel confident in my humanity to be like, I'm gonna leave this band and whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. You know, but I was, I didn't just leave Last 10 because like we argued. Like I was dreaming of arguing with this individual and then waking up having panic attacks, not being able to go back to sleep. And then I was on tour and I had a conversation with one of the members and he was having the same problem. And then it kind of clicked for us and we were like, this is over. And we got into a really big, stupid fight on our way to New Mexico. And I almost went home. And I, was talking to the guys from Cattle and their team. And we had a big conversation. And obviously I stayed, for obvious reasons. And after that, California show, I actually wound up texting why I was leaving and my entire resignation to the band leader because I felt like I couldn't. I felt like there's no way I'm gonna get all of this out without stopping halfway through to be like, but you know what I'm trying to say? So I typed it all out, and this is actually really funny, but it sucks so bad, but you can't help but laugh. I sent the text message like just as I was walking out on stage so that when we came off of stage, he would open his phone and find it and I would be able to leave and it would be over. But because he's the type of person that he is, he saw his phone go off and he told the whole band, wait, and made us stop so that he could read his text messages and then run through his text and then looked at me and I was like, let's go, dude. And then we just played. That was it.
Damn.
And then a couple of days later, I told him like, hey, if we could work out this, this, and this, and this, and we can go to therapy, I'll do it. And at that point, Steven was already like, no. Mike was already gone. You know what I mean? So I was just like, okay, this is it. We're leaving. It happened. I didn't want it to happen. I loved that. I loved everything we were doing. It was, but you can only fight so hard until you're just drowning. You know what I mean? And I had to swim. So
yeah, it is what
good
it
luck to
is.
those guys. I have no I wish no ill on them.
Yeah. And then, of course, the big news is, of course, you're now the new vocalist for Crystal Lake. So I'm just curious, how did you end up getting involved with the band? Being like you're from, of course, the States, and the band is from Japan. Like, how did you get to join the band?
So they were kind enough to do open auditions to the entire world, which is not something that always happens, and publicly anyway. And I just submitted, and I got their attention, and I just followed the steps. And I, at the time, had because I had done an entire 8 months at home, not touring, I was able actually to work on my credit. And anyone who tours knows what I mean. So within that 8 months, I actually like opened up a couple of credit cards and I did really good on my credit. And then here comes this Japan thing. And I was like, cool, we're going to max out all of these and we're going to Japan. Like,
yeah, just
so
it,
it
just
all worked
like
out
go,
pretty well.
just gonna go broke just to join the band.
I was like, fuck it. I was like, here we go, dude. I was like, I'll pay off. I was like, if I get in this band, I'm gonna be in a metalcore band. I'm gonna pay all this off later anyway. I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Like,
yeah, because hey, YOLO, right?
yeah, I was like, fuck it, dude. I was like, I gotta try. Like,
Yeah,
so that's pretty much what happened. And
yeah,
I maxed out three credit cards, and I went like,
yeah.
I
You
bought a
gotta,
bunch of money from my dad, and
yeah,
I went out there.
yeah,
Bless my father.
yeah. You gotta try because you can only regret the things that you don't try.
For real, yo, regret tastes so much bitter than
Yeah.
failure. I promise.
Yeah, and so like the band like held a contest for like the audition for the vocal position. What was like the period like for you personally?
So, um, if you let it, a part of me was terrified. A part of me was very the opposite and very calm. And I tried to stay away from the terrified aspect of it the whole time because it's so much pressure. There's so much riding on it for maybe just a regular contestant and then someone who maybe has a little bit experience. But then for someone like myself who had a whole career and then is now sitting home, it was very stressful. So I tried to zen the whole time. So, the first time I went out there, it was the weeks leading up to it, and all the auditions before that were kind of strenuous and kind of they were scary, but again, zen the whole time, tried to stay calm, tried to just tell myself this is happening. And if I get it, fucking awesome. And if I don't, whatever I'm doing this for is going to do whatever I need to do next. I'm not doing this, is not happening for no reason. So I'm glad this is all happening. And if you've seen my posts, that's why I say the universe unfolds as it should, because I feel like at this point in my life, doors are not closing. All the doors that had closed are done closing, and now all the doors will open because bad things cannot happen if you just allow the world to do what it does. If you accept all the things that happen as a negative, as well, that happened, so now I can do this instead of like fuck and stuck on the pin. You know what I mean? It's so much better. So that's how I tried to think about it because I knew that if I stayed stuck on the pin, I would be crushed. And maybe one of the other contestants got stuck on the pen and that person got crushed afterwards, because they didn't make it, because they didn't understand that like this is to mold, to move forward. And they so it was beautiful and strenuous and, everything you think it would be. It was scary and tiring but it was awesome. And the crowds were super good. And I pretty much taught myself Japanese for the most part. I had a tutor, Chase, for a little bit, but, I've kind of just I kind of wound up teaching it to myself. I wanted to teach. I've learned. I kind of teach it to myself a little bit while I'm sleeping. Like what'll happen is, uh, like I'll think of a word that sounds like an English word, but it'll be like while I'm falling asleep, and it'll be like, oh, that's the Japanese word. Cool. Like, you know what I mean? Or like I'll remember something that one of the other guys said, and for some reason it's stuck in my head. So then I go look it up, and now I know what it is because I remember it, and I can kind of talk to them because they don't speak perfect English. You know what I mean? Like we definitely have a language barrier. It's not perfect communication. Luckily, there's other people around us that can speak English, but we are both learning each other's everything. So
Yeah.
it was scary when we went there. Never been to Asia. I can't speak Japanese. I'm covered in tattoos. I'm from New York City, a very abrasive dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was nervous to go,
Been like, hey,
alone.
I'm walking here.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I had half a mind to sometimes to think I'm thinking to myself like I kind of want my dad to go with me, like because I just didn't want to go alone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and I'm a grown ass man, and here I might think of myself like I kind of want my dad to come because I just felt like this is fucking scary. Like I'm about to go to the other side of the world by myself. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm just
Yeah.
going. Like,
Yeah. So was that like your first time ever going to Japan?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So what was like your first impression, like when you first arrived? What was like, holy shit, this place is awesome.
This is the cleanest place I've ever been in my life.
Really?
That was the first thing I thought of. Yeah, the entire airport at Haneda is pretty much all white, and the floor was totally white, and everything was beautiful, and the toilets were totally clean, and people were super polite and nice, and everything moved really efficiently, and like I just immediately noticed the order of like because people stand in a specific way on the escalator to allow people to walk down so that other people can stand if you don't want to move quick. And then like there's certain places that you stand on the platform in the train to get online for certain times that you want to ride and what trains you're getting on. Like so there's all this order. And coming from a very chaotic place, uh you notice it right away. You're like, oh
Yeah.
wow, this is like they're they
Yeah.
they know what they're doing here. Like everyone is paying attention. Like
Yeah. If only
everyone says
America can
everything
be
with a
like that.
smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you notice it when you come home. When you come home, everyone's like, you walk up to the counter, you're like, hi, how you doing? And everyone's like, passport.
Yeah, it's like night and day, kind of.
All right, you're good. When you show to Japan, they're like, konnichiwa. Like, they're like, oh, passport. Hi.
Yeah. Yeah, and of
Oh,
course, like,
welcome to
yeah.
Nihon. Like,
Yeah, yeah, but sort of like during like the contest, I feel like I've seen like the live videos. You look like you like looked and performed professional in a way. Okay, in what ways did you like prepare to like be on stage with the band? What was some of like the favorite like moments of like the whole audition?
my favorite moments of the entire audition was the food. What I did to prepare for the entire audition is do everything at home that I would normally do on tour. So if I did it on tour, I did it here. I started treating my house like I was on the road. I sang every fucking day. I did a set every day. And I just treated it like I was on road. So that by the time I got to Japan, I would be like tour heavy. Because anyone who tours understands, like, day fucking one, you suck. And then day 10, you're like a fucking T-Rex. So I wanted that to happen. But my favorite part about everything was the food and all the new friends that I made, and the people, and meeting the people in the band and realizing that they were super cool and very much like me. But I love Asian food.
Yeah. Yeah. In what ways was this sort of like different from like Last 10 or any other bands that you worked with? And of course, you mentioned like the language barrier was like the hard thing because, they speak Japanese and of course you speak English. So I'm guessing like you kind of have, like you touched upon it, like learn each other's language, like you learn
Uh,
Japanese and vice versa.
so I guess besides the language barrier and all the obvious things, and I mean this in the most humblest of ways, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, but the guys in Crystal Lake, including the boss, are very open to the outside perspectives. It's not that they're influenced by outside perspectives, but they want to hear and know it all. And sometimes in Last 10, the people who run that band and the boss over there, they don't care for those outside perspectives because they sometimes feel like they got it figured out. And that's fine. Some people feel like they know their craft and their art. But I like the idea that when I even showed up to Crystal Lake before I was even in a band, the boss was like, "What are your thoughts about doing this? Would you do this? How would you do this?" You know what I mean? Like, and I'm a thinker and I'm a crafty bastard, and I'm constantly thinking about like new stuff to do and always different ways that we can possibly do something fun. So I was immediately like, "Oh yeah, I want to do this, and it's cool to do that." Like, and he was very into a lot of it. I mean, some of it, obviously people don't like, but he was definitely into a lot of it. So it felt more on the same page with them, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah, and then jumping ahead, of course, you are announced like the new vocalist of Crystal Lake, like, and I pretty much like the metal community has been following your journey along the way.
That's awesome. Thank
What
you,
were,
guys.
yeah, and what were like your first thoughts now that you pretty much have the gig? Which I remember, like even like watching like your audition video, and I remember commenting saying, "I hope I get the gig," and I think I even replied to it saying like after it was announced, like you became the singers, like looks like your wish came true.
I remember that actually. I
Yeah,
actually think I remember that comment. If it's exactly like that, yeah,
yeah, that was me.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Like I thought it was that once. That's sick. Yeah, man. Joining Crystal Lake has been such an amazing experience. It's been it's been great. The whole thing has been such a pleasure, and it's been life changing in many different ways. They pushed me really hard. I really like that. Because I don't think I'm the best in any sort of fashion. I'm very, very, very blessed to have what I have, and I love when they push me to do more or to move more or to sing different. Like a lot of our new stuff has a lot of clean singing in it, and I'm very excited to release that stuff. A lot of people don't know me for my cleans at all. You
Yeah,
get a
you
little
have an
bit of it
amazing
with
voice.
thank you. Thank you. You get a little bit of that clean with Last 10, but now I get to really break it out on you guys, and I hope you guys really like it. You know, it's it's super fun to clean sing. I know people hate hearing that, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, but I remember like seeing like of course when you joined the band, I know you played like your first shows like playing like the Not Fest and even like shows in Japan. What was that like performing in Japan for the first time with like the large kind of crowds?
Knotfest was insane. I have a photo. I have one of the photos framed on my wall behind me in the next room. Like, you know what I mean? It was absolutely out of control. I just I was ready for the show. I got super prepared for the show. I even showed up to Japan 3 days early so that I would have, be super rested and everything like that. And then I got out on stage, and when, dude, I think the total of the day was like 26,000 people or something like that. And when like that many people are screaming all at the same time, you can have the best in-ears in the world. You feel it in your bones. Like, you know what I mean? And immediately you're just like, you know what I mean? So it was really crazy. It was awesome. You know what I mean? It took my breath away. immediately. Like it was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And how are you sort of like adjusting to sort of like the Japanese kind of lifestyle? Or is there like any plans to like move to Japan or pretty much have the band sort of like move to America in the future?
So I don't think anyone's moving quite yet, but I definitely like the Japanese lifestyle a lot. They seem to do a lot of things that I tend to do already that I wish a lot of people here would do, but I guess I'm just, a little bit more OCD, and them as a society are a little bit more OCD. Like they love order. Uh, so I really like the society, a lot of the society aspects. I love a lot of the social gatherings, and the food is super, super good. Even the stuff that's not Japanese is very well prepared and taken care of. Service everywhere is as good as people can really make it. It's kind of rare that you get really like bad service or something like that. There are like, there are weird things like the cops did break my balls a couple of times because of how I look, and American dude, big American dude walking around Japan, and sometimes I have nothing to do, so I just walk around and it look like I'm casing a neighborhood. I'm not paying attention. Like, I'm just on my phone walking around. You know what I mean? And now I've
Yeah.
gone around the block like 8 times. So the cops are like, yo, come here. Like, you know what I mean? So I've had that happen to me. So like, but it's awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. It's not to say that I don't love America, but I do love Japan a lot. I don't think I could live there. I do miss home. Um, and I think it might be a little difficult for me to live a certain way there that I get to live here. You know what I mean? There are certain plants that are allowed here that are not allowed there. We'll leave it at that. But there's a lot of great things about Japan, and you know, I own a house in Florida that would be really hard to move to Japan. Like that's kind of the big thing. Like I don't want to sell my house, but maybe one day, and like because Japan is amazing, and I don't. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't not dream about living there.
Yeah. It's like
You
one of my
know,
bucket list places to visit.
dude, it's like I have to continuously like when you rewatch this video, you'll see me thinking about it in my head. Like I have to continuously tell myself, like, dude, you can't move to Japan. You own a house, you have animals, you have a girlfriend. Like you can't move to Japan. Like
Yes. But yeah, but tell me about like your first song with the band, Denial Rebirth, which I've heard it's actually a really great song. So what was like the whole like working with like Yudai and pretty much everybody on that song, because I think it's fucking a perfect, like a great new chapter for Crystal Lake.
Thank you. They were both worked on actually a long time before I was in the band, but I was really happy to actually get to put the finishing touches on them. So that was a great time. The song is written by myself, like I wrote the lyrics for it. So it's written about my process of going through being the, I guess we'll do this the short way, the angry fuck that I was in Last 10, and then finding the lighter side of myself that I have now become in Crystal Lake. And it's just, feels a lot better to say whatever and take a deep breath than it is to be so angry about it. It's not that I still don't like to yell hate church and stuff like that, which I don't do with Crystal Lake, but it's still, displacement has been the big thing, but it's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and I still think those songs are great. Is that like a hint of what the new Crystal Lake album will sound like, or is that just kind of like a one-off thing?
So we're actually going to do a lot of different styles. So Denial Rebirth was more the heavier side of things. Definitely, I really enjoy the choir stuff at the end. Singing that was really a pain in the ass, but it was super fun. It was really fun to work with the guys together on the music. But the other stuff is a little bit different. We Crystal Lake likes to do many different styles. So the newer stuff definitely has more chorus aspect to it. Might even be a little bit heavier at times. There's also like there's a little bit more of a hardcore element to one of the songs, which is kind of cool, like a post-hardcore sound to it. Um, but in general, it's been awesome writing with those guys, and none of the songs really resemble each other. They don't really follow like a path, really. They're just kind of like they're collective pieces of music.
Yeah. And what is the status with the new Crystal Lake album? Because so far, Denial Rebirth has been on my playlist, and I'm ready for like more songs with your voice on there.
Thank you. We are definitely giving you guys more music. I'm not sure about a release date or the possibility of a full album or not. We haven't really released any kind of like uh details on what we're gonna do with that or when we're gonna do it. We just know that you guys need to hear music with us and you're gonna fucking get it.
Yeah,
You know, with me, sorry, with me, the music with my voice, and you're gonna get it.
yeah,
You need to hear us on the songs. Like
yes.
everyone's got to be there for it to be Crystal Lake. Like it's
Yes. And sort of like in the end to wrap things up, what's next for you guys? I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the August Burns Red Tour in November. I got my ticket for the Atlanta show. Is just anything else with that Crystal Lake you'd like to plug or promote?
dude, tons of touring. You know what I mean? Tons of touring. Hopefully, tons of new music. You know what I mean? Tons of smiles, lots of partying. You know what I mean? Mad Kong Pie, all that good stuff, which is cheers in Japanese. It's awesome. Like it's just lots of good times. That's what you can look forward to with more Crystal Lake and just a shit ton of touring and just new music.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we go, John, just want to thank you for this interview. It was great to be able to talk with you for a little
Thank you,
bit.
bro.
Is
I
just
appreciate
any
it.
is there any just final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this the closest out? And I'm so glad to finally have Crystal Lake on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been fucking super awesome. Anybody that's maybe aspiring to start a band, stay the fucking school. That's number one. And anyone who's aspiring to be a singer, learn how to clean sing first. I know people don't like to do that, but it teaches you how to use your voice. You don't have to clean sing in your music, but learn how to sing. And if you learn how to sing, you'll be a ridiculous singer like all your other singers. And I didn't learn how to sing first. And it's been such a bitch being a good singer. So like learn how to sing first. It'll be so much easier for you.
Yeah. So everybody, John Robert C from Crystal Lake. We'll see you next time.